With a bipartisan infrastructure bill passing through the Senate, construction to expand I-14 may soon be underway. We take a look at how the expansion could bring new businesses to the Brazos Valley. Plus, that interstate expansion is likely to help grow the local economy. But when will we actually see an impact? Your KRHD News starts right now.
Connecting the Brazos Valley. This is KRHD News.
On this vote, the yeas are 69. The nays are 30. The bill, as amended, is passed.
This was the scene this morning as the U.S. Senate passed the historic $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill. The vote was 69 to 30, with 19 Republican senators joining Democrats to vote in favor of the measure. The bill now heads to the House of Representatives. Included in the bill was funding for a massive expansion project to I-14 from Odessa, Texas to Augusta, Georgia. Good evening, I'm Hallie Jones. With the proposal of the expansion of I-14 comes the possibility of major economic impacts of the Brazos Valley. KRHD reporter Rebecca Fiedler tells us about how the interstate passing through Bryan and College Station could impact the area.
A major interstate passing through Brazos County would have a significant impact on the Aggieland economy. According to the Brazos Valley Economic Development Corporation, this new road bringing East and West Texas together could be a welcomed route for many industries in the Brazos Valley. EDC President Matt Prohaska says that Interstate 14 coming through town could be just one important piece of an even bigger picture of economic development.
There's also an I-214 corridor that we're talking about is a loop, an outer loop around the greater Brazos Valley area. And then you think about things like the high-speed rail and what that could bring for us. And so all of this together really benefits us and gives us more competition and a greater leg up.
Prohaska says companies tend to be looking for the type of transportation opportunities that an interstate might bring to a city. A good connection to other major cities could create a draw for new businesses in the area. Reporting in Brazos County, Rebecca Fiedler, KRHD News.
Earlier, I spoke with mayors Andrew Nelson and Carl Mooney to talk about what effect the expansion of I-14 will have on the Brazos Valley. Here's what they had to say.
What was your guys' reaction last week when Senator Cruz added the I-14 expansion into President Biden's infrastructure package as an amendment?
Well, I'm sure that both of us were excited. I mean, we've worked very hard for this many years, hundreds of people, lots of states, and it's not a final deal, but it's a key step. So when that happened, that was very important. So we're all delighted to see such a big step in a long process.
What roles do you both play on the I-14 Gulf Coast Strategic Highway Coalition?
We're mayors, just like so many other members of the group are. They're mayors or they've been involved in transportation in some way or another. And so we represent what the needs and the desires are of our communities.
What can you guys do to make I-14 through Brazos County a reality?
We're holding the rope with a lot of other communities to get it done. There will be some discussions about, there's 1,000 miles. If you did 40 miles a year, that would be incredible. And it would still take 25 years to do it if we started today. And we haven't started today. So there's a lot more that has to get done. Certainly, our role has been to promote I-14 with the federal government, with the state legislatures. There's a lot of people. TxDOT gets involved in this. So there's a lot of fingers in the pie.
Last week was a definite step. As Andrew said, this went from a concept to something that is now actually on the planning stages.
And then going into the economic impact, what would this mean for Bryan and College Station's economies, respectfully?
Outside businesses often ask, how far are you from an interstate? It's a key metric when people are looking to put offices, people are looking at whether it's manufacturing facilities that are exporting and shipping, or whether it's getting your people to offices in white collar jobs. So it's very important.
Can you guys try to put in perspective what it means to have an interstate come through the county versus just having Highway 6?
This is an east-west highway. All right. We don't really have anything that truly connects all the pieces. For example, Interstate 35 to Interstate 45. All right. And this will do that.
When people traveling along I-14, they'll need a place to gas up. Fans of Buc-ee's, the Aggie-owned Texas-sized gas station, are hopeful the expansion could mean one comes to Aggieland. KRHD News reporter Hannah King reached out to the owners to find out.
The closest Buc-ee's to Bryan College Station is 40 minutes away in Madisonville.
At least once somebody's requesting to go, so if it ain't me.
Open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, the Aggie-owned business is a must-stop.
As soon as I heard about it, man, I had to stop and see what all the fuss was about.
40 locations in all, 38 of them in the Lone Star State. Buc-ee's is a staple on Texas highways.
I mean, they got everything. You can definitely get gas. They just got everything, you know. I love the beef jerky. And they got like 20 different kinds, so there's that. They got a lot of drinks. They got everything you need.
This location gives motorists traveling I-45 between Dallas and Houston a good reason to stop in Madisonville.
Those type businesses are good for the city, and any new ones coming in will be good.
The Beaver bringing big bucks to the small town of roughly 5,000. The convenience store chain was founded by Texas A&M graduate Arch Beaver Applin III. With talk of I-14 expanding to Bryan College Station, we wanted to know if the new stretch of blacktop could bring a Buc-ee's to Aggieland. We reached out to Applin for comment. His attorney, Jeff Nadalo, says while it's not in their immediate plans, they're always looking to expand to locations that make sense.
You haven't been in yet?
No, I haven't.
What have you heard about it?
I've heard it's basically like a big superstore of a gas station. Probably the most gas pumps I've ever seen before.
If the I-14 expansion comes to fruition, travelers hope places like the home to the friendly Beaver and perhaps the cleanest roadside restrooms will keep popping up.
Because then you'll have a place you can fill up, you can get anything you need and keep on going.
In Madison County, Hannah King, KRHD News.
A proposed expansion of Interstate 14 stands to bring big benefits to Central Texas, but as KRHD News investigator Dennis Turner shows us, the huge infrastructure bill has a long way to go in Congress, and we may not see construction on the road for years to come.
Andy Berkowitz works for one of those companies that plans to expand in the near future as Central Texas itself gets bigger.
Definitely a lot of expansion, little nervous if all the services will support all of that expansion.
He and others hope an expansion of Interstate 14 to the east and west will help ease congestion, but he's not holding his breath. The expansion of I-14 didn't even appear in the huge infrastructure bill until the Texas tag team of Senators Cornyn and Cruz pitched the idea in a proposed amendment. The idea had legs outside Texas and got so much support, the Senate approved it in a simple voice vote, similar to this one, which shows Congress passing the big economic aid bill back in March.
The question is on adoption of the motion. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it.
What's in the big infrastructure bill in general? $110 billion will go to roads, bridges, and other transportation needs. $66 billion will transform Amtrak into a railroad to, quote, meet the intercity passenger rail needs of the U.S. rather than make a profit. $73 billion will help the electric grid take advantage of clean energy like wind and solar and help with flood control and new technology. Finally, $65 billion will help more people access the internet, extending lines to rural areas and helping folks in cities pay for better service. The tab, paid mostly by savings from economic assistance programs that most states ended early. While some senators want to rush the bill through before the August recess,
let's start voting on amendments. The longer it takes to finish the bill, the longer we'll be here.
Others want a more deliberative approach.
Senators on both sides expect and deserve opportunities to have a say and to put their own state's imprints on this major bill.
Even if senators approve a bill by recess, the process starts all over again in the House. And if you're holding your breath, you've already turned blue. Most experts say the House will take even more time than the bipartisan bill, especially since many there may favor a competing bill written by Democrats. Even if the bipartisan bill makes it to the president's desk, don't expect to see a new interstate anytime soon. Planning and construction can take, well, what seems like a lifetime.
Public typically sees the concrete and they think, wow, it's taking forever for this to get done. Well, if you take the amount of time that they actually see the construction and multiply it normally by about 5, that's the total amount of time that's been put towards that project.
Jim Reed heads up the Central Texas Council of Governments, a group that coordinates projects and services between cities and counties in the region between Waco and Austin. He reminds us from concept to construction, a lot has to happen before we could build a road.
You know, we used to say that if you just drove on the paper it took to build the road, you probably could drive faster than you can if you wait for the concrete.
First, you have the idea. No problem there. Then a feasibility study.
Then once you finally get the preferred alternative, someone's got to go in there and design it. That takes years to design it. Then you hope you don't run into anything that's a deal breaker, anything culturally, historically, or environmentally significant.
Then you have to buy land you might need to build on and get right of way. That means negotiating with landowners. Reed calls construction the easy part because all you have to do in this case, find a few $1 billion laying around and hire a crew.
Once you get to the point where you're actually moving dirt, as they say, you're kind of in a home stretch. And what's ironic is that's the only part that the public typically sees.
And if you've seen it, you know that ain't happening fast. Everybody breathing? Because as companies get bigger, we expand too, our families and our homes.
We originally were from over in Hewitt, and just this was a nice area. It's got bigger homes than where they were in Hewitt. They're brand new, so we're able to pick a floor plan and go with a builder.
And if you've done that, you know not to hold your breath, waiting for that shiny new interstate to take you to New Orleans, Montgomery, or Atlanta, as the wheels of government turn slowly. In Bell County, Dennis Turner, 25 News.
New this evening, the College Station Fire Department is the recipient of grant money courtesy of FEMA. The money will go towards meeting the demand for more paramedics in the city. The College Station Fire Department received over $700,000 from FEMA. The department will use the funds to train 12 firefighter EMTs to become certified paramedics. It will also provide additional skill sets to those taking part in the program.
The grant money will be used for at least 12, potentially a little bit more than that, paramedics, current firefighter EMTs that we have in the College Station Fire Department. We will be able to send them to paramedic training to be trained as paramedics to provide advanced cardiac life support.
Paramedic training had been shut down for several months prior due to the pandemic. Today, Texas A&M University is celebrating a significant milestone. They are the first university in Texas to operate electric buses. In a ceremony this morning on A&M campus, school leaders, along with the Brazos Transit District, officially recognized the buses as the newest members of the fleet. The buses arrived on campus in mid-June and have been running on multiple routes since July. While being tested, the buses have been able to go 12 hours between charges.
It's very cool to have brand new technology. This is the latest and greatest electric bus technology from Proterra. We've got the largest battery pack that they do, and it's the newest motor as well. So very excited to have these running on campus. We've been running them now this is our 4th week in service, full service. We were testing them out on all sorts of different routes. We're running them out to Rellis, we're running them on campus, and they are lasting 12 hours and making it back home safe.
The buses came to A&M thanks to a $14 million FTA grant put in through a partnership between Texas A&M Transportation Services and the Brazos Transit District. This morning, the Senate passed the $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill. Our Joe St. George joins us to break down the vote and talk about what comes next for the legislation.
The bill, as amended, is passed.
The largest investment in infrastructure in a generation has cleared a key hurdle. It has officially passed the Senate now and heads to the House of Representatives for consideration. And if it gets through that chamber without any changes, it'll go straight to the president's desk. All 50 Democrats in the Senate supported it, as did 19 Republican senators, a rare win for bipartisanship. The legislation creates $550 billion worth of new funding for infrastructure projects. $109 billion will go to roads and bridges nationwide. $66 billion for passenger rail. $65 billion goes to improving internet speeds. $55 billion goes to improving water infrastructure. $39 billion is for mass transit to update commuter trains and buses. $15 billion goes to building more electric car charging stations. It's paid for by not raising taxes. Instead, it uses current resources like leftover COVID-19 relief funds. It's not completely paid for, however. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office says the bill will contribute $256 billion to the national deficit over the next 10 years. That's the reason 30 conservative senators voted against it.
The hardest part of advancing this legislation was getting it out of the United States Senate. But just because it's advanced out of the Senate doesn't necessarily make it law yet. It's going to have to pass the House of Representatives too, and if they change just one word, one comma, it would have to go back to the Senate for another vote.
President Biden is now relying on Speaker Nancy Pelosi to pass the legislation in the House sometime over the next few weeks, perhaps by the end of September. However, she can only afford to lose a handful of Democrats and still pass it if all Republicans in the House oppose it. That may be tricky because many moderate Democrats want to vote on the bipartisan infrastructure bill right away, while many progressive Democrats want to wait for the Senate to pass a separate multi-trillion-dollar spending measure that addresses human infrastructure issues like paid family leave. Those same progressives believe the bipartisan bill that was voted on today isn't big enough. All of this setting up a contentious end to summer on Capitol Hill with potentially trillions of dollars of new government spending and programs at stake. In Washington, I'm Joe St. George.
First Alert Chief Meteorologist Matt Hines is here with a look at weather.
And we're going to start off in the tropics tonight, taking a look at potential tropical cyclone number 6. That just means it doesn't have a close center yet, but looking at the satellite picture, folks, that is healthy. Fred is definitely going to form here, probably within the next 6 to 12 hours or so as it continues across the Caribbean. Very warm waters here and some favorable outflow. You can see that here, that nice circular outflow across the northeastern Caribbean, I should say. That's moving toward Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, and it will continue to slowly strengthen. So again, likely becoming Fred as it moves west-northwest at 17 miles per hour. So when that does occur, we will track this through northern parts of the Caribbean, right over the Dominican Republic and Haiti, and then over Cuba and eventually toward Florida. Right now, it's expected to stay a tropical storm because of all the interactions with land. That is good news. So by the weekend, we're looking at a possible tropical cyclone here west of Florida. It could go anywhere from the Florida Peninsula into the Florida Panhandle, but again, that is well east of anything close to us, so we don't have to worry about that. Clouds and radar showing that we will keep things on the quiet side around here. A few isolated thunderstorms across East Texas, back into New Mexico and Arizona. There's a nice little storm system out there, but unfortunately that is too far away to help us out. So tonight, temperatures will be dipping down into the mid to upper 70s, so a muggy night for us. And then we're looking at highs into the 90s for tomorrow, another muggy day as well across the area. But it'll feel like it's over 100 degrees when you factor in the humidity Wednesday, Thursday, into Friday as well. Maybe an isolated storm chance there on Friday. I think slightly better chances will move in by Sunday into Monday. High temperatures remaining into the mid-90s there. Hopefully we can get at least a few scattered showers and thunderstorms to cool us from time to time as we head through next week, and hopefully keep it below 100 as well.
The Dixie fire in Plumas County, California is now the state's second largest in history. Smoke from that fire is impacting air quality all across the country. It's turned the air in Salt Lake City and Denver into some of the most dangerous in the world this week. That's according to IQ Air, which globally ranks air quality and pollution. Air quality on the East Coast is even ranked as moderate. But there are some things that you can do to protect yourself.
We encourage you to take steps such as getting portable cleaners for one or more of your rooms, keeping your windows and doors closed as much as possible to keep that clean air in.
Jocelyn Hilliard with the Red Cross is currently on the ground in Plumas County. She says other things to avoid when air quality is bad is cooking, fried food, vacuuming, and using gas-powered appliances. Now, a recent study in the Journal of Exposure Science and Environmental Epidemiology links wildfire smoke to susceptibility of getting COVID. Researchers found Reno, Nevada, which was hit hard last year by wildfire smoke, had an 18% higher COVID positivity rate than cities not exposed to high levels of smoke. It's another reason why it is so important to take steps in avoiding anything that could start a wildfire, especially so the devastation and loss that people in California are facing right now doesn't spread.
I've met people here at this facility that have evacuated and gone home. Next 2 days, they're back out evacuating. Now, one of them is here for the last 3 weeks. So it's a lot of unknown. What's going to happen tomorrow? Will I be okay? Will my pets be okay?
The Red Cross has mental health counselors stationed at shelters to help people going through this. They provided us with the photos you're looking at here. And if you'd like to help with wildfire relief efforts, you can visit redcross.org or call or text the numbers you see right here on your screen. Well, an update to the countries considered high risk by the CDC when it comes to COVID. It's a story that starts the news feed. France and Israel, now two of those countries. CDC recommends against all traveling internationally unless you are fully vaccinated. The pandemic is scary, and a new study says people are still not losing faith in doctors and nurses. The AP NORC poll found a high level of trust in those on the front lines, and researchers say that trust is important when it comes to boosting the amount of people who have received the vaccine. Google employees who want to work remotely full-time could see changes in pay. The pay cuts could be based on where an employee lives. Facebook and Twitter are also cutting pay for remote employees who move to less expensive areas. Now, the type of telemedicine visits available for our pets is changing. What you need to know about teletriage as it opens up to more pet owners. Strategies to address climate change are now becoming part of training at workplaces. Deloitte just started a climate learning program for its 330,000 workers. It's a first of its kind program among major global organizations.
Our training, it has, the basics of climate change so people understand a little bit about the science. Then we talk about what Deloitte is doing. So we don't just want the burden is not only on them. We want them to be cognizant of all the actions we've taken as part of our world climate strategy. And then we also have a piece around how they themselves can start to affect change in their daily lives.
Kathy Alsagaff was involved in developing this new program for Deloitte. She says they knew the importance of including a rational argument around climate change, but also an emotional piece to it. Casey Bush's research focuses on climate change education. She's found to make that education effective, communicating the societal parts of climate change is just as important as clearly communicating the science.
There are additional concerns that the sources that adults learn from might be misinformational or disinformational. And so one of the things that they have found that is most important is the messenger and whether or not that messenger is a trusted messenger. And I think that, in the case of an employer, then you're ticking that box.
Now, the next step after the teaching, Bush says there has to be a long-term commitment with multiple follow-ups.
If you're thinking about the recipe, right, like it's a pinch of knowledge, a half cup of social norms and a quarter cup of efficacy and the structural pieces to really boost all of that for action to be happening over a longer period of time.
We like to think of the training as, not the end of the course, but a beginning of a journey.
Deloitte lets employees pick action items for themselves, and they can get an email check-in in 30 days. The company thinks this training could lead to employees bringing up climate change and more conversations with their clients as well. Now, healthcare institutions call it the new front line of battling COVID-19, how they're seeing success in getting more people of color to get vaccinated.
The community of Aggieland came together in celebration overnight to welcome home an Olympic champion. KRHD News reporter Brittany DeFran is sharing an inside look at the celebration.
The community gathered with so much excitement at Easterwood Airport. Everyone cheered and chanted, welcoming home a Thing Mo.
It's great. I don't think it's really kicked in yet. It's amazing. I mean, this is why I came to A&M. This is the people here, and they're definitely showing that off right now.
While she deboarded the plane, it all sunk in.
Ting, ting, you did that thing! Ting, ting, you did that thing!
Her teammates beyond excited to welcome her home.
We are just so proud of you, Athene. You never cease to amaze us. It's been an honor to be her teammates. All of us are on the same team with her, so it's just been a pleasure to see her blossom into the amazing young athlete that she is. And we just know, yes, and we just know that this is only the beginning for her.
With so much time left ahead of her, head coach Pat Henry believes Mo will be a name Aggies will continue to hear for years to come. In College Station, Brittany DeFran, KRHD News.
And at the Tokyo Olympic Games, Mo became the first woman since 1968 to take home gold for the United States in the women's 800 meters. And now that the Olympics have come to an end, the sports world is slowing down, but baseball season still in full swing, with football season just weeks away. WTAW's Zach Taylor joins us now with more.
Here's your 25 sports update with WTAW's Zach Taylor.
Hey KRHD viewers, the USA Today preseason coaches poll has been released, and Texas A&M football comes in at number 6. Reigning national champion Alabama is number 1, followed by Clemson, Oklahoma, Ohio State, and Georgia. The Aggies, Notre Dame, Iowa State, North Carolina, and Cincinnati round out the top 10. Texas is number 19. Luka Doncic is staying put in Dallas. The 22-year-old superstar signed a 5-year, $207 million Supermax extension. Doncic is coming off a year in which he averaged 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 9 assists per game. Browns All-Pro defensive end and Aggie product Myles Garrett could miss some time with a hamstring injury. Garrett is being held out of practice and is listed as day-to-day. Soccer star Lionel Messi has finalized an agreement with Paris Saint-Germain. The 34-year-old Argentina star is reportedly expected to earn around $82 million for 2 years. And after taking yesterday off, both the Astros and the Rangers return to action tonight. Houston hosts Colorado at 7:10, while Texas pays a visit to Seattle at 9:10. From the WTAW Sports Studio, I'm Zach Taylor.
Topping the newsfeed, Google and YouTube are putting in new rules to make their platforms safer for teens. Now those under 18 can request their images be removed from Google searches. Facebook recently updated its guidelines for Instagram to make it safer for those who are under 18. Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has been suspended from Twitter again, this time booted for a week after unproven tweets saying the COVID vaccine is failing. She also said the FDA should not approve the vaccines. The Justice Department may release more information from its investigation into 9/11. The families of victims say the information will show a connection between the Saudi government and the attackers. The Biden administration says the investigation is being reviewed to see if more information can be disclosed. Now, as of this week, more than 71% of adults in the U.S. have received at least a dose of the COVID vaccine. Still, distribution is uneven across states and ethnicities. Latest numbers from the CDC is showing that the highest percentage of people who have received at least a dose are Native Americans. Then, Asian Americans, those who are Hispanic or Latino, and those who are white. Vaccination rates are the lowest among Black Americans. Now, as virus surges give rise to more resistant variants, healthcare institutions say community outreach to those still on the fence is now the front line in battling the virus. Usher Qureshi takes a look at the effort to reach the unvaccinated.
Tomato sauce, spicy lemon, cucumber, and tamarind.
Mexican traditional mug.
Just some of the possible ingredients for the spicy beer cocktail known as michelada.
As the years have progressed, a lot more people, a lot more brands have made their own spin or version of it.
At the return of this summer festival, traditional dancing, merchandise, and drinks are on the menu. But the global pandemic is still top of mind.
This is a big gathering place, and I know a lot of people are nervous about coming out.
Healthcare workers here are educating festival goers on home testing options.
Are you guys vaccinated?
They're also patrolling the grounds, promoting the importance of getting the shot.
We are here offering the COVID vaccine.
But Alma Blancarte Mora, a community health nurse, says they don't anticipate being flooded by people clamoring to get vaccinated.
We're at a festival and we're not expecting to vaccinate hundreds of people, but what we are doing is connecting with people, letting them know that we're here.
A recent analysis by the Kaiser Family Foundation found that of the total number of adults in the U.S. who have received at least one dose, 61% are white and 29% are Hispanic or Black.
And this is your first dose.
24-year-old Daytan Del Valle, a Michelada Festival attendee, had been thinking about getting the vaccine, but finally rolled up his sleeve at the beer fest.
Friendly staff came to me and was like, you want to have it? I figured it was convenient today for me to get it, and I got it.
In some states, the shares of vaccinations going to Hispanic people are increasing. Florida, Nevada, California, New Jersey, Texas, and New York, for example, all saw increases by at least 10 percentage points. Organizers here say that this is the new front line in the global fight against the pandemic.
The majority of the people that are visit us is going to be because they've heard it through the word of mouth at the festival.
Grassroots events like this that honor culture and tradition, they say, will help build trust where it may be in short supply. Reporting from Chicago, I'm Usher Qureshi.
Usher, thank you. Now, an easy-to-remember suicide prevention hotline is supposed to launch nationwide in less than a year. And we're learning the money to get the 988 up and running smoothly still isn't available in most places. So tomorrow we're going to take a look at what it is going to take to get that funding in place in time. But still to come today, illegal marijuana grows in our country's forests are getting worse and having a devastating impact.
It's sad to see the animals that are dead. It's sad to see the water diversions. It's sad to see the chemicals. It's heartbreaking.
How forest rangers are working to restore the land for all of us.
And we are looking at pretty quiet weather here across our part of the world, as we do have a few isolated showers and thunderstorms across East Texas. Those will be dying out for this evening. Notice from the Brazos Valley through north and central Texas back into the west, we are not seeing too much. You get closer to El Paso, that's where they're under an influence, a little storm system here across Arizona and New Mexico. That's providing scattered showers and thunderstorms over there, but I think that stays to the west of us as that heat dome is firmly entrenched over our area. It will start to move back to the west, though, as we get closer to the weekend, and that may start to change things a little bit by then, but not until then. So tonight, temperatures between about 75 and 77 for most of us, so it is going to be a muggy night. AC unit's going to keep running there, and definitely through the day tomorrow with highs into the mid-90s, 94 to 96 for most of us. And of course, then you get to the humidity, and it's going to feel like 102 to 105 pretty much in the afternoon. And that's not just talking about tomorrow, but that goes through the next several days as well as we move into Thursday and Friday. Maybe an isolated storm threat here on Friday and 97 degrees for a high temperature. So remaining on the hot side, but of course it could be even hotter this time of year. This is usually the hottest part of the year for us, so mid-90s not horrible. And we may even look at some rain chances starting to creep in by Sunday and Monday. We'll put those at about 30%, and then maybe some more isolated storm chances by the middle part of next week, and high temperatures remaining into the mid-90s, lows at night, of course, pretty sultry there into the 70s.
It's one of the biggest music festivals in the country, Bonnaroo. And organizers say anyone going to it this year in September must be fully vaccinated or present a negative COVID test. Now, the last day to receive a second dose of the vaccine for the show is August 19th. Bonnaroo is asking anyone who is not vaccinated to wear a mask. Lollapalooza in Chicago had similar procedures in place for its music festival a couple of weeks ago. Now, Amazon is updating its return policy when customers say a product is harmful. Starting next month, you can contact Amazon with a personal injury or property damage claim. Amazon will then connect you with the seller to move forward. Now, up until this, Amazon had told buyers to contact the seller directly, leaving the company mostly out of the process. Some department stores are turning into offices. The owners of Saks Fifth Avenue wants its stores to be co-working spaces with WeWork. Now, the first 5 spaces are expected to open in New York next month. It is meant to better utilize space as remote work sticks around and many brick and mortar stores struggle to get customers through the door. Now, it's not your ordinary summer camp. Kids as young as first grade are being asked to open up about their own experiences with racism.
Even though we do talk about harsh topics sometimes, everyone is there for each other. So I don't really ever feel scared or nervous when I'm trying to share something.
What the parents of these students say is the biggest benefit. It's a problem that has been going on for years, but now it is reaching a critical level. We're talking about the amount of drugs grown illegally in our country's forests. Now, these grows can destroy plants, contaminate water, kill wildlife. Alexa Liaco hiked with a team of forest rangers to see how they're restoring the land.
Most of this Northern California forest remains wild.
We have this amazing, abundant wildlife, nature up here.
This sacred space, one U.S. Forest Ranger Chris McGowan swore to defend.
Our duty is to protect our national forests and our public lands and preserve it for future generations. That's what drives us to be up here.
But here, hidden in places almost too difficult to find.
No, it's just regular fertilizer.
The forest is being poisoned.
And you just found a bag of fertilizer next to a can of Spam.
Yep, exactly.
This is what's left of an illegal marijuana grow.
So over here we have what's left of the stalks.
This makeshift manufacturing hub is a campsite like you've never seen, and more are popping up every year.
And then all this was their kind of sleeping and living area?
That's correct. So you can see how they dug out the side of the hill here so they'd have a flat part, to sleep sleep, or maybe this is where their trim area was.
The rangers are here to dismantle this intrusion. These Forest Service photos of other camps show growers hike in or build everything they need for months.
I've seen all kinds, everything from they make their own kind of flush toilet out there. I've seen gym equipment they made using wood for barbells. I've seen where they had a poker table set up.
But these creature comforts leave the forest a mess. Growing these plants takes much away from this land. Clean water is siphoned off through these black tubes.
And it's a theft. So this is actively, publicly stealing the public's waterways. You're talking millions of gallons of water that are being taken annually. Now, that's a huge impact during a drought season when water is so precious for municipalities, indigenous tribes, public's use, and even firefighting.
But it's the wildlife that's one of the most devastating losses.
X-rated buckets that we can put the carbofuran in.
Greta Wingert is a conservationist working with the Forest Service. She says some pesticides used at these grows aren't even legal in the United States.
This stuff is so toxic that even just a quarter teaspoon can kill an adult black bear. So, sometimes we'll go out and we'll see little tuna can containers that have just a little bit of this pink residue, and it's out there specifically to kill animals.
The growers do this to protect the marijuana and themselves from predators.
And that's heartbreaking. It's sad to see the animals that are dead. It's sad to see the water diversions. It's sad to see the chemicals. It's heartbreaking. And so that's what makes it so important.
Then the team will take the trash away, but sometimes it's too steep to hike it out.
Using a helicopter is the only way to get the teams in and out of the most treacherous grow sites because of the steep terrain. And they also use that same long line to haul out tons and tons of trash.
So we're going to be knocking out 2 sites today.
But knowing the damage that's being done only pushes this team to work harder.
It angered me to know that Americans' public lands are sort of under siege from this. So I get angry, I get really upset, but it's also energizing, and we're all determined to make it right.
Just this year, they've cleared nearly 24 illegal grow sites, and they've removed more than 17,000 pounds of garbage and hazardous chemicals like this.
We are in the middle of nowhere. We don't have the resources, we don't have the funding, but we're here. And we work together as a team.
And McGowan says they do it because this land is meant to be safe, meant to be clean for all of us.
This is not about cannabis. This is about our environment and about protecting our environment and making it safe so a family can enjoy their public lands.
I'm Alexa Liaco reporting.
The newsfeed starts with a warning from the United States to the Taliban. An envoy brought a warning to the Taliban that any government established through violence will not be recognized internationally. Taliban have been gaining ground in the country since the U.S. withdrew forces. A voting machine company now hitting conservative media outlets and a Trump ally who pushed conspiracy theories with the lawsuit. Dominion Voting Systems suit is worth $1.6 billion. It is against those who pushed unproven theories that the company rigged the 2020 election. Christina Applegate unveiling she has MS. The 49-year-old actress says that she was diagnosed a few months ago. More than 2 million people worldwide have an MS diagnosis. Now, most of us learned how to swim or maybe did arts and crafts at summer camp. But kids this year are getting a much more eye-opening experience. Chris Conti takes us to one summer camp where the kids are spending their time learning about racism.
If I was going to do something, what would it look like? What would it be? What would we do?
Like a canvas full of color, there is a myriad of ways to talk about the history of racism in this country.
Thinking about my own children and what type of world did I bring them into?
Rhonda Taylor Bullock has learned that well over the years. She is the founder of We Are.
We Are is an acronym, and it stands for Working to Extend Anti-Racist Education.
A Raleigh-Durham-based nonprofit. They are also the only group in the country to offer a summer camp whose sole mission is to teach kids about racism. The idea is to educate children to be anti-racist during their formative years.
The curiosity, the empathy is different for younger children. The willingness and the want to be a good person is different with younger children. And I think those are the foundational years for kids. And so if we can be more intentional.
We will treat others better when we come.
This is not your ordinary camp. Kids from 1st to 5th grade are often asked to open up about their own experiences with racism.
You know, you bring kids into this space, it's camp, you want them to have fun, but you're wrestling with a very serious topic, and we're very clear and upfront with parents that, like, your kids might come to this space and cry.
Even though we do talk about harsh topics sometimes, everyone is like there for each other, so I don't really ever feel scared or nervous when I'm trying to share something.
11-year-old Tatiana Shields has been to the camp now for the last 4 years.
I don't really think there's a reason to be racist because it's just a skin color.
Perhaps her most memorable experience this year was painting a self-portrait and using multiple colors in a palette to create the color that she sees as her own skin.
And it was interesting finding out how to do it because I would never think that I would end up using some yellow and some red to end up making a skin color.
Tatiana considers herself multiracial. Her mom wants this soon-to-be 6th grader to go into middle school with a strong sense of racial identity and the ability to call out others when racism might arise.
I saw an opportunity where she could not only sort of explore her own racial identity, but have some fluency in talking about race. Because I think part of our fear around confronting racism is we don't have the language. We don't know how to speak about it.
The whole idea is to teach kids empathy, open their eyes at a young age to the world around them, in hopes they will go out into the world with more accepting points of view.
Their largest question they always ask, and it's so heartbreaking, why? And you give them an answer, and they're like, but why? And you give them another. It doesn't make sense to the children. It's heartbreaking that they have to wrestle with this because of the mess that, you know, adults have made.
For Bullock, the work won't end when summer does. She's creating curriculums that preschools in the Raleigh area can use to talk about racism.
The window of hope is so much wider with young children than it is with us as adults.
It is that hope that she wants the kids in this camp to carry, no matter the color of their skin.
They want to live in a socially just world where people are treated fairly.
In Durham, North Carolina, I'm Chris Conti.
Thanks for joining us for Krhd News at 6. We'll be back tonight at 10 with more news and weather. Until then, have a great evening.